Well, this was like, we had two juries that they had to get served, and we had for the jury questionnaire.
12 in effect.
Call to order the New King County Board of Supervisors November 26, 2024 meeting to order. Ms. Watkins, will you call the roll?
Mr. Evelyn?
Here.
Mr. Moyer? Ms. Pearson?
Here.
Mr. Steers?
Here.
And Ms. Stewart?
Here.
Good morning and welcome. Mr. Moyer is not here. He had surgery on his knee, but I spoke with him yesterday. He's doing a lot better, but the doctor still wants him to lay off of it for a couple more days, but he wanted me to tell everyone he's doing fine, and happy Thanksgiving to staff and all the citizens out in New King County. With that, we'll start with our agenda this morning. First item is the Hampton Roads Alliance. It's the Eastern Virginia Regional Industrial Facility Authority. Welcome.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Steve Harrison. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at the Hampton Roads Alliance, and we are the managing organization for the Eastern Virginia Regional Industrial Facility Authority, or EVRIFA. If you love acronyms, that's a good one for you. And we presented to your EDA last week and had good reception there, and I believe they voted to recommend joining the EVRIFA, but I want to walk you through sort of what the EVRIFA is, look at the members that are currently there, the governing process, the funding, and it is actually very minimal funding that you have to invest in order to be a member of the EVRIFA, and then how you share in revenues. I'll talk to you about the project that they're currently working on and then sort of next steps for project participation. So a RIFA is, simply put, sort of a cooperative agreement between localities. We often talk about sort of the idea of regionalism in action, and that's what a RIFA is. It allows localities to jointly participate in development projects and then share in the revenues associated with the wins. And so I think that is something that has been discussed in Virginia for quite a long time, and the Commonwealth put together this framework, which is a political subdivision of the Commonwealth that allows you to do so. And so a regional industrial facility authority is in of itself a governmental body where multiple municipalities can join. And so there are about 11 other RIFAs in Virginia, mostly in the western portion of the state. I think the most sort of famous one right now is the Berry Hill Megasite, which is in Danville. Danville and Pittsylvania County have a joint regional industrial facility authority, and they were just able to attract Microporous to the Berry Hill Megasite, and that is a $1.2 billion investment and about 2,000 jobs. So by sharing in revenues associated with that, both of those communities will do really well, and they both were able to co-invest in something that one probably couldn't have carried by themselves. So the EVRIFA, the Eastern Virginia RIFA, was formed in 2018, and it was really spearheaded by the Peninsula communities. York County brought the initial project to the RIFA. Hampton served as the fiscal agent, and then Newport News served as the support staff. But in 2022, those communities approached the Alliance, and we agreed to take over all those responsibilities because we are a regional group that represents 15 communities from Virginia Beach out to Franklin, Southampton, and then up here to New Kent. And so it aligns perfectly with what we do. The founding members, as I mentioned, were those peninsula communities, but since inception, we've seen a lot of new members join, and so City of Chesapeake, City of Franklin, City of Virginia Beach, Isle of Wight County. We presented to the cities of Norfolk and Portsmouth a few weeks ago, and are back on Portsmouth's agenda for a resolution to approve on December 10th, and should be similar timing for Norfolk. We're hopeful to have both of them on board by the end of this year. And so the way that the board works is every member community appoints 2 primary members and 2 alternate members. And essentially, the expectation is that hopefully one of those members is able to come at any board meeting. And so the way most communities do it is they appoint 1 elected official, 1 member of their EDA, And then the alternate members are often the economic development director and the county administrator or staff in the event that the elected official or the appointed official aren't able to make it. But it is fairly flexible, and so it would be certainly up to this body who to appoint. The current governing board for 2024, David Meeker from Gloucester is the current chair, Harold Phillipson from Williamsburg is the vice chair, Howard Hagee, who's the chair of the Newport News EDA, is the treasurer, and David Hucks, who is the mayor-elect in Poquoson, is the secretary. And as I mentioned, in 2022, the Alliance took over the managing sort of process for the RIFA. It really perfectly aligns with what we do, which is work with communities to solicit projects and to attract business to the Hampton Roads region. And the cost to join and the cost to continually participate is very minimal. So for New Kent County, because you all have a population under 50,000, it would be $2,000 per year. And then there is an initial joining fee that applies to all members. And so for a size community of this, it would be $1,250. So for the first year, the cost would be $3,250, and then every year going forward, $2,000. And really all that does is sort of go towards administrative fees. So the EV-RIFA has an engineering firm that they work with on projects. There's a legal firm that we work with to draft these resolutions and things like that. But the Alliance itself doesn't take any additional revenues from the RIFA because the communities that are members are already members of the Alliance. And then the way that the projects work is that every project has a participation agreement, so sort of a subcontract to the RIFA, and the member localities would get together and agree on what revenue was needed, and then what that sharing arrangement would look like. And so, for instance, if York County brought the first project, if let's say they said we would like to pay for 50% of this, but we're soliciting the other 50% of what we need to ready this site, New Kent could theoretically say we'd like to do 10%, and then work with all of the other communities, and then whatever that amount was would come to this board for approval. And so the amount that's invested would have to be approved by every governing board of every member locality. And so EV-RIFA does have one active project, which is the Kings Creek Commerce Center. And so this was surplus state land, and I think it was a really good way to get EV-RIFA started because the Commonwealth had this land. It was a surplus fuel depot in York County, and they were more interested in the idea of selling the land to multiple localities versus sort of giving it to just one. And so it's a 432-acre tract of land. And the way that this worked was the communities closed on the property in December of 2021 and simultaneously leased 250 acres to Dominion for a solar farm. And so the cost to buy the land and then the revenue that they were getting from Dominion canceled each other out. So it was immediately paid for, and then everything else essentially will be revenues that go to those communities. Since that time, they've also secured a Go Virginia grant just to do site preparation work. And that's basically to raise the tier certification of the site. And then in June of this year, the EV-RIFA received a contract for 30 acres of the approximately 82 acres that are left for development from a company called Distribution Realty Group. And they're looking to do some spec warehouses and warehousing and distribution on the site. And so those revenues, which could total about $1 million, would be split among the communities who are members. And so these 6 communities chose to invest in that project at varying levels. And so I think an interesting example would be the city of Williamsburg, which is somewhat landlocked. They don't have large industrial tracts of land, but they do have revenues that they could invest. So this gives them sort of another avenue to invest some of that money and then benefit from the large industrial tract that York County has. And then York County, as the sort of host, decided to invest the most. But you'll see even the city of Poquoson invested $2,500, and that's an annual fee. But like I mentioned, every one of these participation agreements is individual, and so this is how they decided to set this up, but the next project could look very different. And so just as an example, if New Kent was to join the EV-RIFA, and let's say that a project was brought to the EV-RIFA board, New Kent would either sort of choose option A, which is choose to participate in that project, and then you would begin negotiations with the other communities and determine how much you sort of want to take on as far as the costs associated with readying the site, or it actually doesn't have to be an industrial project. The way the Commonwealth legislation is written, it's required to be called a regional industrial facility authority. I'm not actually sure why, but it does not actually have to be an industrial project. It could be a corporate office, it could be infrastructure improvements, it could be affordable housing. So it's really anything that municipalities would want to kind of co-invest in together. But if that project was something that was of interest to New Kent, you all would determine what participation works for you. This body would vote on it, and then you would sit on the committee for that project and help to vote on any expenses that were incurred. So the way that the Kings Creek Commerce Center project works, they wrote into their participation agreement that every action taken by the committee has to be unanimous. So every community has to vote yes for anything. So for that contract to be approved, all 6 of the communities have to be on board. But some participation agreements may not be like that, but that's just how they chose to do it. And then option B would be that you might look at this and say, okay, we don't want to participate on this project. There's no penalty incurred. There's really nothing happens to the members of the EV-RIFA board that don't participate. You still sit on the EV-RIFA board of directors. You just wouldn't sit on that subcommittee. And then you would still sort of be apprised of what's going on those projects. So really, in a lot of ways, it's sort of just having a seat at the table, whether or not you are involved in an individual project, because things do sort of level up to the board for approval. So for $3,200 and then $2,000 going forward, it's a very minimal cost, with almost, based on this sort of a almost no risk situation. So the next steps on the EV-RIFA would be that you all as the Board of Supervisors could consider adopting a resolution to join the EV-RIFA. That's essentially all you have to do, and we can work with the legal counsel for RIFA to draft a resolution for you all to review. And then we would bring that to the EV-RIFA board. The EV-RIFA board would vote to approve that resolution. And after that, New Kent would appoint 2 primary members and 2 alternate members to that board, and then sit on it moving forward. So it is sort of a newer entity that the Commonwealth has created, but we think it has the potential to be extremely impactful, because if you think about the idea of a large tract of land in Hampton Roads, for instance, where one community might not be able to ready it, the Ford, Hyundai, sort of you name it, some of these major projects that happened in the Southeast in the past few years all looked at Virginia, but Virginia didn't have a ready site. And so if we could advance some of these bigger sites in Hampton Roads, in New Kent, or really anywhere across the region, we could land some of these bigger projects, and then it would allow all of these communities, not just one, to sort of share in the win. And so Mayor Rick West of the city of Chesapeake, when they joined, he said to him it represents regionalism in action, and that it is the opportunity for a transformative economic growth. And so it's sort of, instead of hitting base hits individually, the hope is, we could hit a home run together. And so I'd be happy to answer any questions. The website that has more information on the EV-RIFA is easternvirginiaauthority.com or hamptonroadsalliance.com as well.
Well, thank you, Steve. That's a great presentation. Board members have any questions?
Mr. Evelyn, I have a question. Is the membership on a fiscal year basis, or if you join right now, it's on a rolling year basis, or how does that work?
It's on a fiscal year, and so you could join right now, and then it would just be prorated.
Right. I just like the opportunity to research it a little more and maybe do it during the budget process.
Absolutely.
I think that's the best approach, in my opinion. So.
Anyone? Ms. Stewart?
Thank you for this presentation. I went on the websites you mentioned, and I read through the recent annual report, so this was much more informative. For the annual contribution page, I don't know what slide that is, but is the revenue sharing proportional to each locality's annual contribution?
It's not. So the revenue sharing would be proportional to your investment in an individual project.
Okay.
So, for instance, when Kings Creek starts to pay out the revenue, the 6 communities who are members will get those revenues. The ones that didn't choose to participate won't share in any of that revenue.
And then, did I understand it correctly that we would have to vote on what our contribution to a project is, and then all the other localities have to approve our contribution as well?
They would approve theirs.
Okay.
So you would approve yours, and then every community that brings sort of a board-approved contribution would be a member of that participation agreement.
And what was the timeline for getting the Kings Creek, all the participating localities at the table and approved? How long did that take?
It took, I think, about a year. A lot of it was sort of first working with the state to determine how they were going to buy the surplus state land. And then the GSA, Government Services Administration, had to help them sort of figure all of that out. And that property is under some EPA regulatory improvement plans and things. So I think that maybe slowed it down more than a typical project would be. But the RIFA was formed in 2018, and then they got all the communities on board and closed on that property by 2021. So I think it was sort of creating the RIFA took a few years, and then took a little over a year just to get everybody together. And then from 2021 to present is now they have a win.
Thank you.
All right.
I just want to bring to the board's attention, last Thursday, the Economic Development Authority passed a unanimous motion to recommend that the county join the RIFA, and the EDA also agreed to pay the joining fee and the first year dues. So the $32.50 the EDA has agreed to pay.
Well, I'd say, can we bring it back to our December meeting and give us a little bit of time to look into it a little bit deeper?
Yeah, that's a lot to digest, and, I know some of these localities are much larger than New Kent County. We're just a small little county, and we seem to have done pretty good on our own in several areas by having Colonial Downs here and having, several other large businesses come to the county. Lucky's is coming. AutoZone is coming. So,
Absolutely.
But I appreciate your presentation. It was great.
Thank you, sir. I do think the nice thing about the RIFA is that sort of regardless of the size of the community, you can fit into the projects that you want to, or you could bring a project to the RIFA if there happens to be a large tract of land that you're interested in getting additional investment in. That would be an option as well. And for the city of Portsmouth, that was something that they referenced, was that, with the Rivers Casino, they have additional revenues coming in, and so that might be a place where they could invest and make some money.
Is there a lot of, in the Hampton Roads area, is there a lot of city and county-owned property, or y'all mostly invested on private properties?
There's a lot of city and county-owned property. A lot of EDAs control, particularly industrial tracts. But we've seen actually quite a few developers coming in the last, I would say, even 5 years. Like Matin, which is doing something here, is doing something in Suffolk, and so there are sort of private sector partners that would, I think, be interested in kind of joining alongside a lot of these projects.
Makes sense. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next item is initiating a Senior Volunteer Hall of Fame. Mr. Green?
Good morning.
If you don't mind hitting that, could you hit that as a button on? So there you go. Thank you.
The last time I was before the board, I was here to ask the board for a contribution to support the Chickahominy Area Triad. And just, we're like, when we win, the county wins. So if Mr. Evelyn has a minute, I want something we want to pass on to the county. Okay, there you go, and thank you, and we thank you for your support, and it's for all the board.
Uh-huh.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
You find a place for that.
Yes, we will.
You know, for the sheriff's in the back, and I don't know how many of you have looked at the New Kent Chronicle. Well, each year the OAG, Office of Attorney General, puts together, have 41 organizations that they look at. This year, we were voted as the outstanding triad within the state. And this will be going home and residing with the sheriff come December after we have our get together. Now, the Senior Hall of Fame. You know, I travel around and I work with different organizations, and I see quite a few of our senior citizens that are deeply involved and doing it because they want to make a difference in the lives of people within the county. But it's very seldom that I've seen that the county is recognizing these individuals that are putting forth the effort. So the senior program, Hall of Fame, will do that, will allow you that opportunity. And one of the things that I always taught myself as a supervisor when I was in the military, and then also as a civilian working for the Department of the Air Force, if you bring something to the table, bring a fix with it and the money you can do it with it. Okay? I'll listen to you, but you need to bring those two. So I bought you and I'll leave it up to you, and I think it'll be a minimal cost. I think you've already read over the way that it will operate, and I'm available if you want to pursue it, but I ask that you make and do this and and recognize the people within the community that are doing the work. In closing, on the 18th of December, we're having our annual holiday luncheon. It'll be at Charles City Community Center off of Rootfield Road. You are invited, and hope to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Green. I think this is something we should look at pretty closely, and maybe with the new year coming up when we make the appointments and everything, it might be fitting to go in January. If the board wants to pursue this, and maybe we can.
I love this idea. I think it's a great idea. Volunteerism is just so prevalent here in New Kent County. Does Charles City do a similar program?
I don't know, but this is from the county and not a joint program.
I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, there's so many volunteer organizations here in the county, and many senior citizens belong to them, and they give up their time without even batting an eye. So I think this is a great idea.
So maybe staff take a look at what Mr. Green presented, go through it and look at it and bring something back to us in December. Item 3, agreement with Timmons Group for the City Center court improvements. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. Hathaway, Mr. Everard. It's good to see you this morning. This resolution will just authorize the county administrator to enter into this contract with Timmons to do the design engineering of the New Kent City Center Court extension. So as you all know, earlier this year, we were awarded an $800,000 grant. It was a VDOT Economic Development Access Grant. And so that will fund this initiative. I'll also note that we're working with the property owner who will provide a $150,000 local match to also support this initiative. So we're working with them on that agreement right now. If you were to pass this resolution today, we wouldn't execute the contract with Timmons until we have the development agreement in place and the EDA grant agreement in place as well. So we're excited to be able to advance with this and hopefully open up some more areas for great economic development in Kent County.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I just have one question, Ms. Inman. On page 8 of the agreement, it talks about the FEMA analysis. Do we have that? It said that we could possibly save some time if we have that. It's at the top of page 8.
Oh, the flood?
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, they will do that in the event that the county has effective model. Yeah. We'll certainly work with our environmental group to make sure if that is something that's necessary for us to do that work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Does that help to answer the question? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
This is no actions needed.
I think it's something that we have to do to move forward with the project.
And there's no cost to the county. This is a grant-funded project. And the Shias, the property owners, have agreed to provide the matching funds. The way the grant works, it's a $500,000 grant. You can go up to $800, but above $500,000, it's a dollar-for-dollar match. So we would have to put in $150, which it would be from the Shias, and the state would give you another $150 to get to $800.
But what if it goes over the 800?
Then we have an agreement that we've presented to the Shias. Any additional costs would be the responsibility of the Shias.
Anybody have any other concerns or questions, comments? Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to authorize the county administrator to execute an agreement with Timmons Group in a form approved by the county attorney for city center court improvements.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson. Ms. Watkins, we poll the members.
Ms. Pearson,
Aye.
Mr. Steers,
Aye.
Ms. Stewart,
Aye.
and Mr. Evelyn.
Aye. Motion passes. Next, New King County 2025 legislative agenda. Mr. Hathaway's passing it out.
There's been one change from what's in the notice agenda. I am passing out a paper copy that reflects the most recent version of the legislative agenda. And since I presented this at I believe our October work session, 2 additional items have been added, which I'd like to go over with you. Item number 4 is a new item, which is a public notice requirement. The last session of the Assembly, there were changes adopted to the state code public noticing requirements. Those change requires the county to notice any public meeting at least 28 days before the meeting, which is not a problem. But the second part of that is it has to be at least 7 days. Second notice has to be published at least 7 days before the meeting. And that's where we run into issues with, and it seems like other localities are running into. Oh, I'm sorry. Other localities are running into issues as well. Because of the schedule of our local paper, we noticed through the Tidewater Review, which comes out on a Thursday, I believe, Wednesday, and our meeting is on a Monday. So therefore, we're having to back that date up now, and we're having to advertise actually almost a little over a month, about a month, before the actual meeting, which causes issues sometimes with allowing us to move quickly on applications. With that month period, it just delays the period of time that the board can take action on any public noticing item. We're asking that the General Assembly, and I know our county attorney has been working with VACO as well, and it appears that other localities are having the same issue. We're asking to turn that 7-day requirement into 5 days. Therefore, we would meet our schedule, our normal advertising schedule, and would be able to advertise in the Tidewater Review the edition right before our meeting. And I did not originally put this in there because I thought it was just a New Kent problem, but apparently there's a lot of localities that are facing this issue across the Commonwealth. So VACO has agreed to support this, and therefore I've added this to our legislative agenda as well. The other item that has been added is item number 7. In 2021, there was legislation passed to reform the sentencing requirements. Previously, a convicted person that had to stand trial had to choose whether their trial was going to be heard by a jury or a judge. And that's trial and sentencing heard by a jury or a judge. In 2021, the laws changed so that the convicted person can choose their hearing to be heard by a jury or judge, but they could also choose for their sentencing to be heard by a jury or judge. So therefore, you could choose a jury for your hearing, and if you were convicted, for your sentencing, you could also choose a judge for your sentencing. You did not have that option previously. Because of this change in legislation, we are experiencing, and it's not just a New Kent issue, it's across the state, a dramatic increase in trials being heard by juries. Which puts a lot of additional resources on not only our Commonwealth Attorney, our court system, but our law enforcement as well. Every jury trial, there's numerous of potential jurors, I don't know what you call it, that have to be served to appear for court. If there's a 12-member jury, they could serve as many as 50 people. And that's an extensive process with serving those people as well. You have to make at least 3 attempts in some situations to serve those members. So it's just a huge increase on our staff here. And we're asking for that be considered as far as compensating those people too. I think we'll see in our operating budget this year that's presented that the Sheriff's Office will be asking for additional staff. And that's just not a New Kent thing. Again, this is an issue across the state. So we are asking that the state do an analysis of this unfunded mandate and find a way to provide relief to communities.
Thank you, Mr. Hathaway. Does anybody have any comments about the 2 additions to the legislative agenda?
Mr. Hathaway, I really like the addition of number 7.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
Good.
a very good idea.
Good.
Having had jury duty twice myself since 2021.
Right.
Let's see, Mr. Chair, I've got just general questions that weren't about the 2 new ones, if we're ready for those.
Yes.
What has been the engagement strategy with our legislative agenda in the past years?
In the past years, I've have been reaching out to the staff of our 2 state representatives and have been sharing our legislative agenda with them and offering a meeting, in-person meeting. They haven't taken me up on the in-person meeting, but they have accepted the legislative agenda.
I would just make a suggestion that if we're going to put together this document that I think is really important and really good, I think that we should make it a priority to meet with our now 3 elected officials for the county, especially given number 1, we've retained a lobbyist for number 1. So I would just make that suggestion because I think the only way we get anything is to continually ask for it and make it known that it's a priority. So I think that is my only comment.
Great, thank you.
Can you add A in program up at the top?
I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So we don't have any action on this now, or?
There is a motion, or should be a motion.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong thing, yep. All right. There no other comments, anybody want to make a motion? Mr. Spears?
Mr. Chairman, if there's no other comments, I would like to make a motion that we adopt the proposed New Kent County 2025 legislative agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Steers. Ms. Watkins, will you poll the members, please?
Ms. Pearson?
Aye.
Mr. Steers?
Aye.
Ms. Stewart?
Aye.
And Mr. Evelyn?
Aye. Motion passed. Last item this morning is future capital projects discussion. Mr. Hathaway?
Thank you. Thank you. All right. This item is just a discussion of some items that I wanted us to think about, some potential capital projects, at least. And there's three projects that I'm going to focus on. One is McKimmey Woods. The second is the New Kent Historic School. And the third is the New Kent Courthouse. These items were planned for our fall retreat. No action is being requested today. It's just some items for us to start thinking about and start planning for. And okay. Starting with McKimmey Woods. This property is 274 acres. It's zoned conservation. We have received a purchase offer from the Chickahominy Indian Tribe Eastern Division. We've also received a lease offer from the Public Safety Foundation. And also I've been contacted by numerous organizations with interest in either purchase or lease or other arrangements for the property. We're currently using the property on occasion. It's not very often. Our law enforcement offices around the region has used that site for training. There is also an eco-eternity forest on the property that I am managing, and it is being used. I get frequent requests to go out there, and we've done some burials since we've taken ownership of that property. Ashes, yeah.
There's a cemetery on it.
It's a eco-eternity forest. It's an area that's designated. The Presbyterian Church, the previous owners, had sold plots to families that wanted their remains laid there. So, ashes. This is a map of the property. Again, 274 acres. Since we were just talking about the eco-eternity forest, that is on the southern tip of the property. There is a canoe landing, kayak launch here as well, a maintenance shed, dining hall, swimming pool. There's a chapel, if you see the area, the arrow right along here, and the entrance of the property is here. I believe when we first purchased the property, there was discussion about a potential park facility, which we have a shortage of fields right now. That's the thing I hear about most from our youth groups. The lack of softball, baseball playing fields in the county. So if we're looking at uses, that definitely those types of facilities are a need for the county. The Chickahominy Indian proposal, their proposal is not to develop the land. They want to use it as their tribal land, host regional powwows, a potential museum in the future, and a meeting place for their tribe and the regional tribes. They have specifically informed me that their plan is to not develop the land. They have no interest in developing the land, and they want to keep it natural.
Well, is the whole piece zone conservation?
Yes,
they
it
really
is.
can't do.
Has there been any discussion about how much they're willing to pay?
They gave us an offer of $1 million, which is what we paid for the property. If a recommendation, if we are going to consider working with the Chickahominy Indian tribe, I would recommend that we look at carving off maybe 30, 40 acres so that we can put in some facilities, some recreation facilities that I think will serve the east end of the county well. That is a focus of mine right now because we have a couple of parks in the western portion of the county, but no park facilities in the eastern portion of the county right now. So it would be great to provide those amenities there too. And the track is large enough where it could accommodate both uses. Now, the other proposal that you've received from the Public Safety Foundation, that proposal was kind of loose in that it seems like that they want to work out a partnership with the county where they would share in the maintenance of the property and operate the property jointly for recreational uses and for their uses, which is the operation of I believe it's the Freedom Fields, which I believe is a counseling services for veterans. They would like to operate that on the property too, and also use this property as where they could do some fundraising as far as they reference in the email that I forwarded you that they would like to hold some concerts and other activities there as fundraisers. And I have copies of those emails from the Chickahominy Indian tribe and the Public Safety Foundation that I can share with you as well.
Mr. Chairman.
Sir.
I haven't physically been to the property. I've been by it several times, but I was told that there was a lot of repairs that need to be made to the different buildings out there. Is that true?
That is true. Those buildings need some work. They've been vacant for a period of time. I don't believe in their current state that our building official would let us occupy them.
Right.
Yes, that is true.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Hathaway, is there any mechanism that we have that we could ask input from citizens on what they would like to see here?
Well, yes, and yes, and actually that's part of my recommendation for the property. If we're going to use this for a recreational purpose, I would recommend that we hire a consultant to do some preliminary work and kind of lay things out and where amenities could be, but also that consultant could work with us to conduct a series of community meetings to hear from the community about what types of amenities and facilities they would like to see on the property. I don't think we can plan a park without asking the community what they want to be in the
I've
park.
mentioned that several times. That
Yeah.
the citizens should be involved.
Yeah, I think with the size of this property, we need to hear from the citizens and see what they want before we make any decisions. Let's do it.
Mr. Chair, and I anticipated Mr. Hathaway was going to say hire a consultant, because I think you mentioned that in your previous
Yes,
emails,
yes,
and I agree. Like,
yes.
I have had Mr. Smith, who comes to every meeting
Yes.
and talks about a park,
Yes, yes.
and he has told me he's circulating a petition for a park, so I'm
He
sure
is.
we will see. I asked him to bring it today, but I think he's busy. I agree that we need to for sure engage the public, and I, with my responsibilities as a board member on Plan RVA and Richmond Regional Tourism, I engaged both of them. I met with Plan RVA last week or the week before, and then Richmond Regional Tourism yesterday to see if we can utilize any of their services for the membership fee that we already pay to be a part of those organizations. And Plan RVA shared that they can do a lot of what the consultant would do for us as a member. Specifically, they said they could survey localities in Virginia that have gone through similar processes, design a public engagement plans to identify needs and wants for a park space, research and analyze current facilities and programs that are offered regionally or geared toward specific priority populations for benchmarking, and mapping and space analysis of current features and attributes of the property. So I would suggest we try to utilize our low or no cost options before we commit to hiring anyone.
And they did a great job with the comp plan meeting as well, so I would think that they could organize the public meetings as well.
And I think they shared, I can't remember if it was Richmond Regional Tourism or Plan RVA. One of them shared they just helped Hanover do their cross-country trails with a similar process as this.
Okay.
Sounds like that's where we should start.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Next project is the historic school, which is the facility next door. This is the original portion of the historic school building that was constructed in about 1930. The upper level is 15,100 square feet. The lower level, which includes the gymnasium and atrium area, is 36,315 square feet. It also includes some classrooms on the bottom floor as well, which I'll show you. We've been working with Mosley on this, and they have developed a plan for the use of this building as a community center. The concept is to utilize the existing stage and an auditorium here for a reception hall, community space. Also, the area in green right here would be the Parks and Recreation office. This area in blue shows classrooms, but it would be where we put our cooperative extension services, and I have a rendering of what their office space will look like as well in the next slide. This back portion, which is the original library of the building, the concept here is that this would be a community meeting space where any group could reserve this space for their meetings or activities. There would be some smaller breakout areas where Parks and Rec or a group could have meetings or classes. And the area on this side where the arrow is would be dedicated senior space for senior day programs, and not just day programs, but dedicated senior programs. And then some smaller breakout meeting places here too. The concept is that this would be open to the community to reserve. We know that meeting space is needed. Our Quinton Community Center stays booked. This room right here on the evenings, there's various groups that reserve this space as well. For the bottom area, which is the 36,000 square feet roughly, we would not do any renovations to the basketball gym. Actually, that area has already been renovated. The area in blue has already been renovated as well. This is the small engine program for bridging communities. And these are classrooms that we use for Parks and Rec activities. Our pre-K program used to be in this classroom here. They're now in the schools, and we're using this for Parks and Rec activities as well. This area in gray, the plan would be to use this for storage. Storage is a huge need for county offices here. There is an issue with this area in that it is known to get wet and there's a lot of moisture in the bottom. The renovation, though, would address the moisture issues by sealing these walls, exterior walls, to prevent water from coming in. This is a proposed renovation. The previous slide was the current. One thing, the main change, other than sealing these walls to prevent moisture from coming in, we would add bathrooms here. And these would be bathrooms that would be used during Falcon football games, during baseball season, and any other activities outside in the field or in the gymnasium too. Currently, all of those activities, and if you've been by here on a weekend when you have football going on and baseball going on, it's packed out here. And they're all utilizing these small bathrooms here and some porta-johns located outside on the fields. So the idea would be to have one central area for bathrooms. Also proposing a renovation of the atrium area, the area in between the buildings, to include a stage and some chairs and seating where could have some performances, socials. This is something that, it probably would be phased. We would not do immediately, but it's a concept of what could be done to this center area. I show this slide because I want you to pay attention to this portion here, because this will provide the handicap access into the building, with the ramp being here. And this is very important on the next slide because we were also directed by the board to look at how this building could accommodate the Treasurer's Office and the Commissioner of Revenue's office. Using that outside area, you would come into the building right here, which would be the service counters for the Treasurer, the dark blue being the Commissioner of Revenue. And this is how we've laid out their office space, the Treasurer and the Commissioner of Revenue's office space. Now, I'll tell you with this design, which was the best we could come up with the goal of keeping this stage area available to the community. There were some concerns with this design, and I don't believe that there's a will to move forward in the Commissioner of Revenue's office. One of the concerns is the distance that would have to be walked to get to this area. And the other major concern was the Commissioner of Revenue did not want to share the space with another office. And this design here is basically a shared space between the Commissioner of Revenue and the Treasurer, and we just had no way to completely seal the two offices off. So we don't feel like this design will work. We don't feel that this building can accommodate the Commissioner of Revenue and Treasurer's office while keeping some community space and taking advantage of the nice stage and auditorium that's already there. which leads us back to this design, which involves Parks and Recreation, cooperative extension, and a community space for the building.
Mr. Hathaway, what would
Yes.
happen to the Parks and Rec space and the cooperative extension space that is currently being used?
Well, I know I've had a request from the Career and Technical School to occupy that, bridging communities. They are out of space. They would like to expand programs. They have no room to expand programs at this time. So I could see them moving into that space. Now, one concern, after we've developed this design for the building, we then asked Mosley to cost it out. And as you recall, we originally borrowed $7 million for the renovation of the historic school. Costing this out, we came up with a price of almost $14 million, and that's why we have not moved forward with the project. And this is a breakdown of the cost estimate. The renovation was $10.2 million. There's some site work involved with that, mainly that whole atrium and stage area, which, could be a later phase, but that's $2.7 million. If we were going to open the historic school up to the community, one of the biggest issues we have is parking. And in order to accommodate and achieve more parking, we came up with the idea of moving the school maintenance building to a location behind the high school, which would provide additional parking in that area. The cost of a new maintenance building was estimated at $850,000, and the demolition of the existing maintenance building was $43,800. The site work for the parking is included in the 10.2, so a total project cost of $13.8 million. This estimate is about 1 year old. It was done in the fall of 2023, so that's where we are with the historic school project, yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I have two questions. One is, back in where the schematic shows the seniors area for their daily get-together,
Yes.
does that also include a grill where they can get back burgers, sandwiches, or something and spend the day? Did that include that?
It includes a warming kitchen. So yes, it does include a kitchen where they can prepare meals. That we feel that's essential to having a senior day space.
Right.
Yes.
And then is this available to the public where they can go online and view it?
We can make this available. At one time, I believe it was. I'm not quite sure. We just updated our website. I can make sure that it is available.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else's comments on the school?
I just have two questions. If this is available to the public to rent, who manages that?
Our Parks and Recreation is the plan. Yeah.
And then, Sheriff, do you have any considerations for additional burden on your office if this is more opened up to the public, or is it already pretty public?
I think a lot of it would just be moved from different areas. They're already being held either here in our training facility or EOC, and I think it would just be a specific location that they would be housed at. So I don't anticipate it being tremendous burden.
Mr. Hathaway, where is this in the CIP? Like what year? Is it a current project that's slated, or is it?
No. We did the borrowing in 2022. Okay. We did the borrowing in 2022. But we haven't proceeded with the project. We've just been in design and planning.
I imagine we didn't borrow enough.
No, we did not. We did not.
So what if we decide to table this for now? What happens
Yeah.
to those funds?
Well, we have some options. In fact, one of my recommendations is to kind of table this for now. Kind of in my CIP presentation, you will see a recommendation to move forward with the replacement of a fire station number 2, which is, I'm recommending that it primarily be funded with the borrowing for this project. And that's replacing the Quinton Fire Station number 2. That was a request we received, and that is in my CIP recommendation.
That was my question. It's not tied to this project?
No.
Okay.
But I wanted to give you an update of where we are with this project. I do believe this is a really good project. That building could be a huge resource to this community. It's just a matter of timing and the ability to afford it. Next project is courthouse construction discussion. Mr. Evelyn and I received a request from our circuit court judge to meet with him to tour the courthouse facility. And in meeting with him, he and his staff shared with us that they are completely out of space over there. And from the tour, it appears that they really are. They are using every bit of space that's in that building. They're even using spaces now for uses that wasn't intended when the building was built. Trying to get every inch of use out of that building. The judge has expressed a need for more space. And we've looked at a couple of options. We've looked at adding a wing to that building. I have reached out to the adjacent property owner, I guess on the west side of the courthouse, which is not owned by the county. That owner has informed me that he does not wish to sell at this time. So that takes the expansion to the west out of the picture. We do have the ability to potentially add a wing to the east side of the courthouse. There's a lot of utilities in there. We would just have to do a lot of additional work, engineering preliminary work, to see the feasibility of that. My recommendation is if we're truly going to not just put a Band-Aid on this, but build for the future, build a facility that's going to last us for the next 20, 30, 40 years, I think we need to look at building a new courthouse facility. And in doing that, we would need more land. We do not have enough land in our existing complex to accommodate a new courthouse facility and the parking and the site requirements that are involved with the courthouse. There is an adjacent parcel surrounding our complex here. I believe it's in the ownership of Lloyd Poe. I've not approached him, but I have heard, I believe we've all heard, that there are some developers that have been looking at that property to do various residential projects. In fact, we've met with the couple and they've shared some plans with us. If the county was able to get control over that property, that would give us the ability to build a courthouse somewhere around the wood line where the post office is. Could probably use the field right now that our Parks and Rec use for soccer, for parking. And we could lay out a very nice campus if we could get control over at least a portion of that property. If we could build a new courthouse as well, we would have the opportunity to use the existing courthouse for administration offices and space between the county and schools. We all know that there's a huge need for administration office space. We're out of space in this building. So that could potentially solve two problems that we're facing. The county has done a space analysis working with Mosley Architects. And before you is a summary of that space analysis, where we looked at our current needs, our needs 10 years out, and our needs 20 years out. Our current needs, we anticipate that we need a building around 35,000 square feet. 20 years out, about 44,000 square feet for administration offices. And then you see school administration too. And, you know, with school administration too, I believe this also includes, they have a lot of administration staff that's scattered about. In case you see the number of 13,000, and they're currently in the courthouse, that's probably about 4,000. This would be centralizing their administration staff, which I think definitely would be ideal. Looking at the existing courthouse, that's 23,672 square feet. The existing administration building is 18,818 square feet, for a total of 42,490 square feet. So that definitely gets us very close to our 20-year needs. And there's some things, and keep in mind, these space requirements came from a survey of our departments. And this is, you know, if money was an issue, this is what we really would want for operation. I think we can whittle that down a little bit. And I also think there's some departments that we wouldn't need to move, so we could reduce that from that 43,910 square feet, such as IT, our general services. I think both of those are in situations right now that are comfortable and meets their needs. So you're taking 7,000 square feet out of that number already. So,
But you're adding the schools in there too, so you need to add the historic school building in that equation as well.
That's correct. That's correct. And you know, it might not be a situation where we can bring them all under one roof, but between the two buildings, we may be able to identify some additional office space in this building for the schools. May not totally meet their needs, but we get closer.
Question: where is fire and rescue on here?
Fire rescue was not included in this. Right now, I believe that they're good. So we did not include them in this.
Where are they currently located?
Oh, okay. They're in the Health and Human Services building.
That was a loaded question.
They're in the Thrive, Virginia space, the space that was formerly Thrive, Virginia. That space has been renovated, and they're in there.
And then, specifically for the courthouse, are any of those employees in that building county employees? Or are they all state employees that serve the county?
Sheriff, right.
The whole back half is the sheriff's office, part of the sheriff's office.
And,
So
and
specifically-
you have Commonwealth attorneys. I mean, they're state, but we fund them. Yeah.
Deputy clerks in any of the courts, they're state or county funded?
The deputy, well, the circuit court clerks are county funded. The general district clerks are state funded.
Clerks and deputy clerks?
Well, some of those positions on both sides, we get funding from the comp board. So for the circuit court, I believe there's about 3 positions that are state funded. We fund the rest. For general district side, they're all funded by the state. For family services, they're all funded by the state. But we do fund some of the circuit court clerks.
Thank you.
Commonwealth attorney is us, right? Is the county.
We get some comp board funding, some state funding for those two. The Commonwealth attorney, his salary is primarily funded by the state. We do supplement his salary. And he has one other attorney that's primarily funded by the state. And then there's an attorney that we pay for, and we pay for some of his support staff too. So it's a blend.
And the victim witness is a grant.
That's a grant.
And then JDR is state.
Yes.
I know when we met with the judge, he wants to work with us right now, but I don't think if we don't do something, he might not be as willing. As you know, he can force us to build a courthouse if he has to. I really do think, after speaking with him, trying to do a renovation on the wing and trying to keep, he definitely says you're gonna have to figure out how to keep court open. We can't stop. And he said these records are very private, so he said he's kind of concerned, and open to an idea, but he doesn't see how it's going to work. Trying to do a renovation and trying to still keep court open. So I kind of think this would solve 2 problems we have with space here, working with the schools and county staff, and then putting us a new courthouse. I kind of think that's something we really need to put on the front burner, during this budget season talk. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I remember like a couple years ago, there was a developer that owns land across behind Corinth Baptist Church, right? About 1,000 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And when we met with him, he said that he was willing to proffer some property over there for a new courthouse or admin building. Is there anything going on with that?
Well, I think that's an option, but with that option, I think we're going to have to agree to allow about 500-600 homes with that. And I'm not sure if that's the will of the board right now. But I do believe that they would be willing to proffer land. But if we would like to move forward, I believe the path forward with the courthouse is to, just as we've done with the administration building, that's the first step, is to do a needs analysis for the courthouse, so we can get an idea of size and layout and cost eventually. And then we can work with Davenport and start working some financing options, as well as, we've all met last week with the schools looking at a new elementary school. We can even start to build some financing models that involves the new elementary school financing too, with the potential of doing one big borrowing, what that looks like. And it does sound like a lot of money, but I think we have some things working for us too, because within the next 5 years, we will pay off a lot of debt as well. We'll pay off the high school, vehicle maintenance facility, health and human services building. I believe the sheriff's annex too, which will give us some opportunities to take on new debt.
You should have waited till after the budget this season. Tell that yet. No, I think we've done a really good job with managing our debt. I mean, we've done some reborrowing and gotten interest rates down real low. So, thanks, staff, and the board has done a great job with that.
So, if it's okay, I would like to start getting quotes on just doing the preliminary work, the spatial analysis, working with the courts, so we can start to get an idea of what we would need to build for the courts.
Is everybody okay with that?
Okay, good.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hathaway. Any board members have any other business? Ms. Stewart?
I just have two things. One, it's not too late, one, to sign up for Christmas assistance, and two, to assist DSS for Christmas. The donations for Christmas are due by December 20th, and they have a range of seniors, young people, meals, all kinds of opportunities. So if anybody's interested in doing that, there is still time to do that. And then one of my constituents participates in the Farm Bureau Women's Committee, and they're doing a sock drive looking for gender-neutral socks with grips, which are harder to find than you would think. And they are accepting donations of those at the Farm Bureau office in Providence Forge until December 7th. So if anybody is out and sees those, I would encourage you to contribute. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else?
The Forge Foundation starts cooking 50 turkeys tomorrow, so if you want to come by and have Thanksgiving lunch, we're at the Providence Forge Rec Center. It's all you can eat for 99 cents.
Ms. Steers, what about the Christmas parade? When's the day it's signed?
Oh, yeah, the Christmas parade, it's online. You just go to the Facebook page, Providence Forge Christmas Parade, and you can sign up there.
When's the deadline to sign?
December 1st.
December 1st, okay.
Yeah.
That actually breaks the
The 8th, yes. And there should be hard copies by the end of this week that you can pick up, or it should be maybe there by now since the deadline is December 1st, but hard copies at both CNF banks in New Kent County.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd just like to encourage citizens to come out Sunday, December 1st, the first Sunday after Thanksgiving, for the grand illumination from 3 to 6 right here at the historic courthouse. It's a great event for all families, and so I'd like to see everybody come out.
Well, thank you. On behalf of the board, we'd like to wish everybody, staff, citizens, happy, safe Thanksgiving. And like I said, Ms. Pearson said, the grand illumination is a great event, so hope to see everybody out. Anybody have anything else? Mr. Adler?
Mr. Chairman, I have one more item. Well, first, at our December meeting, December 9th, at 7 o'clock at New Kent High School, we will have the graduation ceremony of our firefighter recruiting class. So we invite the public to come out to attend that. We do have a board meeting that night. I'm trying to keep the agenda short so that we can travel over to that and participate in that event as well. Also, at your December meeting, I am working with the schools. Speaking of the new elementary school, and I meant to discuss that during our discussion, the schools would like to proceed with engineering and design of the new elementary school. Knowing that the board hasn't taken action yet, we know at some point we will need a new elementary school. And even if the board says no now, we will have a design in hand that we could utilize at any point when the board is ready. The board has the funding. The school has the funding to proceed with that. It will require a transfer that will be on your agenda at the December meeting. So just a heads up for that. So,
Mr. Hathaway, you said that the board has, the school is paying for that, or we are?
Yes.
And it's in their budget?
yes.
Okay.
There is a transfer that's would have to be approved for the board, but it's the school's budget.
An additional transfer from what we've already allotted to the schools?
No, it's a transfer between line items within the school's budget.
Okay.
It's the school's budget.
Is that it?
Yes.
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Thank you, Ms. Steers. Ms. Watkins, polling members.
Mr. Steers?
Aye.
Ms. Stewart?
Aye.
Ms. Pearson?
Aye.
And Mr. Evelyn?
Aye. Meeting adjourned.